William Henry Harrison, the hero of Tippecanoe. Welcome to our deep dive into the life and legacy of William Henry Harrison, an instrumental yet often overlooked figure in early American history. Born on February 9, 1773, at Berkeley Plantation in Virginia, Harrison hailed from a prominent family deeply rooted in the fight for American independence. His father, Benjamin Harrison Futh, was a signer of the Declaration of Independence and served as governor of Virginia. Today, we will explore Harrison's illustrious military career, his pivotal role in the expansion and defense of the young nation, and his brief tenure as the 9th President of the United States. At the age of 18, driven by a sense of duty and adventure, William Henry Harrison abandoned his medical studies at the University of Pennsylvania to join the United States Army. In 1791, amid escalating conflicts with Native American tribes in the Northwest Territory, Harrison secured a commission as an ensign in the 1st Infantry of the regular army. Under the command of General Mad Anthony Wayne, a seasoned officer renowned for his unorthodox tactics and relentless pursuit of the enemy, Harrison quickly distinguished himself. In 1792, he delivered a personal letter of introduction from President George Washington to General Wayne, which underscored his potential value to the military efforts in the Ohio Valley. Appointed as a lieutenant and aide-de-camp to General Wayne, Harrison immersed himself in the rigors of military strategy and frontier warfare. He meticulously studied Wayne's methods, earning the moniker "the young officer who never sleeps" due to his diligence and tireless work ethic. His early experiences on the frontier would shape his understanding of both military operations and Native American relations. Harrison's competence and bravery became evident during the Northwest Indian War. He participated in the pivotal Battle of Fallen Timbers on August 20, 1794, where General Wayne's forces decisively defeated the Western Confederacy of Native tribes. This victory led to the Treaty of Greenville in 1795, which opened up much of present-day Ohio to American settlement. Through these engagements, Harrison not only honed his military acumen, but also developed a nuanced perspective on the complexities of frontier diplomacy. In 1800, at just 27 years old, Harrison was appointed Secretary of the Northwest Territory. The following year, on May 13, 1800, President John Adams appointed him as the first governor of the newly formed Indiana Territory, which encompassed present-day Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin, and parts of Minnesota. As governor, Harrison was tasked with administering a vast and sparsely populated region fraught with tensions between Native American inhabitants and encroaching settlers. Harrison pursued an aggressive land acquisition strategy, negotiating numerous treaties that ceded millions of acres of Native American land to the United States. He believed that the expansion of settlements would strengthen the territory's security and promote economic development. However, these actions exacerbated tensions with indigenous peoples, setting the stage for future conflicts. Central to the rising unrest was Tecumseh, a charismatic Shawnee leader born around 1768 near present-day Ohio. Tecumseh fiercely opposed the piecemeal sale of indigenous lands, asserting that no single tribe had the right to cede territory without the unanimous consent of all tribes, a doctrine that challenged U.S. treaty practices. Alongside his brother Tenskwatawa, the prophet, who advocated a return to traditional ways and resistance to American encroachment, Tecumseh sought to form a pan-tribal confederacy. By 1810, their settlement at Prophetstown, located near the confluence of the Wabash and Tippecanoe rivers, became the focal point of indigenous resistance. The Treaty of Fort Wayne in September 1809, orchestrated by Harrison, intensified hostilities. The treaty involved the cession of approximately 3 million acres of land along the Wabash River, negotiated with tribes willing to sell. Tecumseh vehemently rejected the treaty, declaring it illegitimate and threatening to kill the chiefs who signed it. Recognizing the potential for widespread conflict, Harrison sought to avert war through diplomacy. In August 1810, he invited Tecumseh and his delegation to a council at Vincennes. The meeting was marked by mutual distrust and confrontation. During the council, Harrison attempted to explain the legality of the land cessions. Tecumseh, an imposing figure, eloquently articulated his stance against the treaties, asserting the sovereignty of native nations. At one point, tensions escalated sharply when Tecumseh's warriors appeared ready to draw weapons. Harrison's guards responded by drawing their swords and firearms. The volatile meeting underscored the deep divisions and the diminishing prospects for a peaceful resolution. By 1811, it became evident that hostilities were imminent. With intelligence suggesting that Tecumseh was traveling in the south to recruit allies, Harrison decided to act preemptively. Assembling a force of approximately 1,000 men, he marched towards Prophetstown under the guise of a routine military exercise. On the evening of November 6, 1811, Harrison's army established a fortified camp near the Tippecanoe River. Despite receiving a message from Tenskwatawa expressing a desire for peace, Harrison remained cautious, arranging his troops in a defensive posture and ordering them to sleep with their weapons at hand. Before dawn on November 7th, native forces launched a surprise attack on the encampment. The battle was characterized by intense close-quarters combat in darkness and confusion. Harrison's leadership was pivotal in maintaining order among his troops, who repelled multiple assaults. By sunrise, the native warriors retreated, and Harrison's forces secured a tactical victory. The village of Prophetstown was subsequently destroyed, dealing a significant blow to the native Confederacy. Although losses were heavy on both sides, Harrison's forces suffered 188 casualties, including 63 killed. The battle disrupted Tecumseh's coalition and earned Harrison national acclaim as the hero of Tippecanoe. While frontier conflicts simmered, the United States faced mounting pressures overseas. The Napoleonic Wars between Britain and France severely impacted American commerce. Both nations imposed restrictions to prevent the U.S. from trading with the other, resulting in seizures of American ships and cargoes. Most egregiously, the British Royal Navy practiced impressment, the forcible conscription of sailors from American vessels, often under the pretext that they were deserters from British service. Between 1803 and 1812, an estimated 6,000 American sailors were impressed. These violations of American sovereignty fueled public outrage. In June 1812, under President James Madison, Congress declared war on Britain. The young nation aimed to defend its maritime rights, protect its citizens, and assert itself on the global stage. The early stages of the War of 1812 were marked by setbacks for the United States. General William Hull, commanding forces in the Northwest Territory, surrendered Detroit to British forces under Major General Isaac Brock and Tecumseh without a fight on August 16, 1812. This capitulation ceded control of Michigan Territory and exposed the frontier to British and native incursions. In response to the crisis, William Henry Harrison was commissioned as a major general in the Kentucky militia and later in the United States Army. Western settlers, familiar with his leadership and successes against native forces, demanded his appointment. Harrison faced the daunting task of reclaiming lost territory and defending the frontier with limited resources. Throughout late 1812 and early 1813, he worked to rebuild the Army's strength, establish supply lines, and fortify positions such as Fort Meigs on the Maumee River. Recognizing the strategic importance of controlling the Great Lakes, Harrison collaborated with Captain Oliver Hazard Perry to establish naval superiority. Perry oversaw the rapid construction of a fleet at Presque Isle, now Erie, Pennsylvania, utilizing green timber and scarce resources. On September 10, 1813, Perry's fleet engaged the British in the Battle of Lake Erie. Despite initial setbacks, Perry famously transferred his flag to the USS Niagara after his flagship, the USS Lawrence, was disabled. His decisive action led to a resounding American victory. In his report to Harrison, Perry wrote the now famous line, "We have met the enemy, and they are ours. 2 ships, 2 brigs, 1 schooner, and 1 sloop." Control of Lake Erie forced the British to abandon Detroit and retreat into Upper Canada. With naval supremacy secured, Harrison mobilized an army of approximately 3,500 men, including regulars and Kentucky volunteers under the command of Colonel Richard M. Johnson. They crossed into Canada on October 2, 1813, landing near Amherstburg. Pursuing the retreating British and native forces led by General Henry Proctor and Tecumseh, Harrison's troops advanced rapidly. Proctor's demoralized forces attempted to escape along the Thames River, but were forced to make a stand on October 5, 1813. Harrison deployed his troops strategically, ordering a frontal assault to exploit weaknesses in the British line. Colonel Johnson's mounted infantry executed a bold charge directly into enemy formations. The British regulars, numbering around 600, quickly surrendered after brief resistance. The native warriors, numbering about 1,000, continued the fight fiercely. During the battle, Tecumseh was killed, although accounts vary regarding the exact circumstances and who delivered the fatal shot. Tecumseh's death was a devastating blow to native resistance, fracturing the Confederacy he had labored to build. The Battle of the Thames was a decisive victory, effectively neutralizing the British threat in the Northwest. It restored American control over the region and bolstered national morale. Following the conclusion of his military service, Harrison resigned from the Army in May 1814. He was appointed by President Madison as head of the newly created District of Northwestern Territory, but declined the position due to political disagreements. Harrison transitioned to a political career, serving in the U.S. House of Representatives from 1816 to 1819, and later in the Ohio State Senate. In 1824, he was elected to the U.S. Senate, where he advocated for veterans' benefits and frontier development. In 1828, President John Quincy Adams appointed Harrison as Minister Plenipotentiary to Gran Colombia. However, his tenure was brief due to a change in administration, and he returned to his farm at North Bend, Ohio, in 1831. By 1836, Harrison emerged as a leading figure in the newly formed Whig Party, which coalesced in opposition to President Andrew Jackson's policies. Although he ran unsuccessfully for president in 1836, his popularity remained strong. In 1840, the Whig Party nominated Harrison as their presidential candidate, with John Tyler as his running mate. The election occurred during a period of economic hardship following the Panic of 1837, which had led to a severe depression. The Democrats, led by President Martin Van Buren, ridiculed Harrison as a relic of the past, a man more suited to sit in his log cabin, drinking hard cider, than to lead the nation. The Whig Party seized upon the Democrats' mockery, turning it into the centerpiece of a highly effective campaign, the Log Cabin and Hard Cider Campaign. They portrayed Harrison as a man of the people, in contrast to the aristocratic Van Buren. Log cabins were erected at rallies across the nation, adorned with raccoon skins and barrels of hard cider. Campaign songs, slogans, and paraphernalia celebrated Harrison's frontier image. The slogan "Tippecanoe and Tyler too" linked his military heroism to his political aspirations. Mass mobilization was unprecedented. The campaign leveraged emerging technologies such as the telegraph and steam-powered printing presses to disseminate materials widely. Voter turnout soared, with enthusiastic public engagement. William Henry Harrison was inaugurated as the 9th President of the United States on March 4, 1841. At 68 years old, he was the oldest person to assume the presidency at that time. Determined to demonstrate his vigor, Harrison delivered the longest inaugural address in U.S. history, spanning nearly 2 hours and over 8,400 words, delivered without a hat or coat on a cold, wet day. His speech emphasized national unity, adherence to constitutional principles, and limits on executive power. Tragically, Harrison fell ill shortly after taking office, developing pneumonia. Despite medical interventions of the time, including bloodletting and opium, his condition worsened. On April 4, 1841, just 31 days into his term, Harrison died, the first U.S. president to die in office. His death sparked a constitutional crisis over presidential succession, ultimately resolved with Vice President John Tyler assuming the presidency, a precedent that solidified the process for future transitions. Harrison's legacy is multifaceted. While his presidency was brief, his military and political careers significantly impacted the nation's expansion and development. He played a critical role in opening the Northwest Territory to American settlement and in shaping early American Indian policy, a legacy that remains subject to historical scrutiny. His campaign techniques heralded a new era in American politics, emphasizing image, slogans, and mass participation, the effects of which are evident in modern electoral practices. In conclusion, William Henry Harrison's life encapsulates the complexities of American expansion, the formation of national identity, and the evolution of political culture. From his early days on the frontier to his ascendancy as a national hero and president, Harrison's contributions continue to be a subject of study for historians and scholars. His role in pivotal events, such as the Battle of Tippecanoe and the War of 1812, underscores the interplay between military action and policy in shaping the young nation. Though his time in the Oval Office was tragically short, the circumstances of his election and death had lasting implications for presidential succession and the conduct of political campaigns. As we reflect on Harrison's legacy, we recognize both the accomplishments and the controversies that define his place in history, a testament to the enduring complexity of America's past.